There was the diesel record. It was attainable. We thought, hey, if this R35 chassis and this Power Stroke diesel come together, it might be the right formula. It moved from just an idea to execution.
I think from day one, I was very skeptical about the project.
We worked from sun up to sundown and even through the night and everything. Like, it was crazy, like 20-hour days, nonstop the whole week.
That's how you prepare for Pikes Peak. And seeing other very big teams go through the exact same struggles that we've gone through, like, it's just kind of the nature of the beast.
When I first saw the 6.0 and the GTR was like basically my orientation day. Like, welcome to LYFE, this is what we're doing.
This whole week we were really excited for a fun diesel battle with our good buddies Aaron and Scott. We were excited to kind of compare the times and kind of see how things were going, and Cole was really fast.
The very first time I get to really drive the car outside of a parking lot was on, I don't know, one of the most difficult sections of race surface in the world, the upper section of Pikes Peak.
It was so gnarly. You couldn't see 30 feet in front of you at the bottom.
We are now ready to go take our chance at the mountain to see if we can beat a diesel record, to see if we can beat our other buddies in their diesel-powered vehicles, if we're gonna have a car that even makes it to the top of the mountain.
At the starting of the week, at Summit Talks, you'll hear them speak. It's only Monday.
On Tech Day, I think everybody is reinvigorated. You know, you've had a moment to sit in the truck and drive, or you flew there and you've had a little bit of time to yourself to kind of catch up on what's just kind of happened in the past few weeks. It's all a bit of a blur.
We definitely brought a showstopper to the event. Like, we pulled it out of the trailer, there were so many people that came around it and just were gawing over it.
But you get this new energy. You know, you see other people's builds, you get to roll the car out, it's shiny, it's new, it's fresh. You get to put it all together and roll through tech, and it's a pretty magical feeling, especially with a monster like this.
Looking at it all day long gets kind of like normal to me, but then when the public sees it, then you really are like, okay, we did something pretty special here.
Taking a vote here on whether we run nitrous or not.
Cole makes a last-minute decision to make a class change because I think we were really concerned about the use of nitrous or not.
If we use nitrous, it moves us into unlimited, which is going to put us later in the afternoon runtime. If we stay in exhibition, we're guaranteed to be the first batch of cars that goes. You know, whether we're the first car or the 17th car, we're going to be in the first group, which is historically more favorable weather. We have concerns about how the turbos are going to behave at high altitude, being off nitrous. And we're kind of split right now. Clay's saying use nitrous, go to unlimited. I'm saying take the guaranteed weather window in the morning. So we're gonna call and get a Charlie vote, and that'll kind of decide which way we go.
Initially, we weren't planning on using nitrous if we were going for the diesel record, but I think it became apparent very quickly that we needed nitrous to help get the car to move out of corners.
So, you know, it's ultimately Clay's decision, and Charlie didn't overrule it. So I think we're gonna move to unlimited and stay on the bottle and be able to go make power still at elevation. We'll know tomorrow morning on the upper section.
You could be sitting taking lunch, the news will hit you like a punch. It's only Tuesday.
On Tuesday morning, that was our first real chance to drive the car, essentially. The car literally has had no testing.
Sitting at Devil's Playground right now, about 13,000 feet. About to practice on the mountain for the very first time with Frank. 6.0. Pretty excited about it.
I wasn't mentally prepared for the actual lack of oxygen.
The very first time I get to really drive the car outside of a parking lot was on, I don't know, one of the most difficult sections of race surface in the world, the upper section of Pikes Peak.
We were expecting to learn a lot. We knew that it wasn't going to be perfect.
So after the first day of practice was not really time well spent, I didn't gain any confidence in the car. If anything, I lost confidence. When I came to a stop, I heard boiling, and the hood started to bubble, and it's not good.
So we knew that we had some things we wanted to work on. We wanted to improve the brake pedal feel. Again, there's a brand new braking system. The car is very heavy. We wanted to make sure that everything was working safely. And then there were some tuning things that we were able to do. Charlie from KC Turbos was there with us, and he was making some adjustments for us.
But we knew what we had to do. We made it down to Cole's shop. Big shout out to Cole. And we worked into the night.
The goal was we were going to try to get to a racetrack so that we could do some actual shakedown prior to qualifying.
The great folks at PPIR were able to literally keep the lights on for us to just give us like 20 minutes of testing time. And the team did a killer job of getting the car up to speed, get us onto PPIR, and I was able to turn some laps around a proper racetrack for the very first time. And I was finally excited about driving this thing.
It was very relieving to see Cole come back. He was very confident in the car, happy with the changes we had made, and he was ready for qualifying.
We'll all go running underground, and we'll be listening for the sound. It's only Wednesday.
Big day. Qualifying means a lot at Pikes Peak as far as setting the run order. So typically the sooner you qualify, the better chance you have of better weather earlier in the morning. So we knew we wanted to qualify well and get a bunch of runs in.
As a team, I'm very confident in the car. I think we were expecting to learn more, especially as Cole was pushing. We were excited to see what the pace was going to be at the bottom. Again, this is a really fast technical section of the run. So it's kind of a good scale to kind of see how the things are going to go. Cole gets up to go qualify, and it's so exciting to see the car kind of slowly chug off the line as Cole's trying to build boost, but the second the turbos spin up, the thing is a rocket ship. And so it's fun to see him take off. He's very fast, very, very fast. We were really excited about the potential for what we were seeing. And then as we were supposed to get a second sector time, it never shows up. To not get a qualifying time was kind of a big blow to the team, because again, that meant we were going to be forced to run at the back of the pack.
Just die?
Yeah, the electrical's doing something real funky.
I think we just take those batteries out.
Oh yeah, I've had a lot of time to think about it.
I know you have. So we've been shitting our pants, wondering what the hell's going on.
I told him to call down and tell you I'm fine, then I was able to get a little phone service, so.
Like, well, time to go sort out as much as we possibly can in the next 24 hours.
We're like 12 seconds faster than Old Smoky on the first section. Well, it don't matter, yeah.
This whole week, we were really excited for a fun diesel battle with our good buddies, Aaron and Scott. We were excited to kind of compare the times and kind of see how things were going. And Cole was really fast.
So you think you'll get it fixed? Yeah, I'm getting rid of those stupid fucking rotary batteries. I'm almost positive it's the We come off the mountain from qualifying, we go back to the shop, and we jump into the issues that we were aware of.
Everybody was like addressing separate issues. We all got tons of stuff down.
Electronics, the rear differential, we had some cooling issues, so we addressed some of those issues as well.
Oh, it's still so gooey.
Yeah, there's so much in there. And it's...
The water tank was like the biggest thing with that problem. The pumps weren't working because those filters were clogging with all the silicone.
Man, I made a big mistake. These fellas let me work on the car. I did not do a good job at all.
Oh, good.
Oh, that's good, yeah. Here, look, this is what's been doing it.
It was a long work day. We start to get the car wrapped up at about midnight, start to put things back together. We're getting ready to load it up in the trailer so we can go sleep for maybe 2 hours. And we go to fire it up to drive it into the trailer. That's when we realized that this week was not going to be an easy week.
You hear a whistling overhead. Are you alive or are you dead? It's only Thursday.
So the next day, we were supposed to be up there qualifying midsection. We obviously were not going to make it because the car won't start. Pull the oil pan.
I don't know, it's fucking sick.
Holy shit.
Oh my gosh. So where would we have?
I know what's wrong with it.
It was very clear when we pulled the oil pan that the engine was done.
There was just metal everywhere. Like, we knew we had a catastrophic failure and we needed to address that immediately.
This is my disappointed look. So we knew at that point that we had a lot of work to do. As you can see here, this is the caveman method of rotating your engine over.
Frank wouldn't turn over off of the starter, so we were chasing ground leads and trying to make sure everything electrical wise was okay. To no avail. The starter would only kick the engine over like 1 degree at a time. So we found the biggest wrench we had, put it on the crank snout, put, I think it was a jack handle on top of that. But OP just goes flying.
Is your tailbone okay?
Oh, my tailbone's definitely bruised.
Snap on, snap crack.
Honestly, my butt is still bruised from that. Like, I was trying to run with my kids the other day, and I realized that I definitely bruised my butt yanking on that pry bar.
Have we tried turning in the opposite direction?
Yeah, okay. Ready? Let's spin the motor.
Really? It's
Shut the fuck up! What's this?
Put it back on!
I totally broke it loose. We originally thought it was an electrical issue because the starter wouldn't turn. Well, the starter wouldn't turn because the electronics said we can't turn a starter that's attached to a seized engine. Some X bearings.
Dude, I'm excited about the t-shirts.
So, experienced a major failure, something that we have prepared for. We do have a spare engine. But the key is finding the source of the failure so you just don't have the same failure on the new engine. We don't want to waste a bunch of time, money, and effort getting this thing to line on race day just to have the same thing happen again. So we can replace the engine, we can replace the pump, but what's the real issue here? We still don't know yet. So a pair of purple rods is a big indicator that those rods were not getting fed sufficient oil. It doesn't matter how good your oil is, if the oil doesn't get there, stay there, it's not going to work.
We jumped right into the swap. Luckily, the guys from Riff Raff were there to help throw everything together. If it wasn't for them, we couldn't have done what we did.
We had Peter, Clay, Nick. They were the engine guys. They had to get that done. There was some other little stuff on the car that the rest of the team was able to address.
I'm like, I know nothing about diesels, and none of us really do at all. But to watch those guys just tear into it and go at it was pretty special to see. And like, we had our end handled. They just needed to handle the motor, and that was it.
It was so nice to have more hands on it, like the guys that Clay brought. Just people that weren't like as exhausted as we were. Like, they had some energy and they were like ready to go in and like rip stuff off. And we're like, please, like, have at it, man.
We're hoping that this engine rebuild is going to take 4 or 5 hours. It ended up taking quite a bit longer than that. Again, just trying to source all the pieces that we didn't have.
It's just the smallest stuff that you run into, like, oh yeah, we got an engine, we got all the parts that we need. Oh, well, the head gaskets aren't right. okay, we're trying to find head gaskets at like 10 p.m. And like, oh, well, the dowels that align the heads are the wrong size. Well, let's go machine those down. Or like all these tiny little problems that you run into that thankfully we were able to like, you know, quickly overcome, and it didn't set us back. But
Thursday is about when time each day kind of blended together to where if you tried to ask me what happened on Thursday versus Friday or Saturday, it would be really hard to kind of tell when that happened, because essentially it felt like Thursday to Saturday was one day.
Know that shelter is your home, the living space you have outgrown. It's only Friday.
We dress the new engine, get the heads on it.
Of our failure, we covered everything. It was a really long conversation. So he talked to his guy who's been doing this and has experience at Pikes Peak, and they gave us a lot of really good info. So the first thing is we're dealing with a drag racer, right? So drag races are always flat. We're going up a hill. So when we go up a hill, all of our oil's back here. We're starving these scavenges. So the other thing is we're pulling up in the back of the heads. And so he's saying put a dash 16 at the back of the pan, cap one of these off, and if we can take another scavenger pull from the valve covers, because the heads are filling up, G-forces and uphill the entire time. So we're filling the heads and all of our oils at the back of the pan. We starve the scavengers most likely, which starve the maintenance.
Finally get to the point where we're putting everything back together. We have these super rad billet valve covers to put on.
The conversation went, if the billet valve covers go on the engine, they're not going to come off. They physically won't come off without us pulling the engine. Is there any reason why we would need to pull these valve covers once they've been installed?
Why would you need to take the valve covers off of a new engine build?
The answer was, if we have to pull the valve covers, there's something much more serious going on in the engine.
It's not an easy engine and trans combo to get in and out of that car. It's a decent amount of work, mostly just because everything's so big and heavy.
Oh man, the weather reports kept coming in. Everybody's sending me weather this, weather that. I get it, but it's not gonna change. We're not gonna not go to Pikes Peak. We're not gonna not show up for race day.
We're changing an engine in a car. We're diagnosing all of these issues, all with the potential that we won't even have a chance to drive because of the weather on Sunday. As you're getting sleep deprived and tired and thinking crazy thoughts and your mind's playing tricks on you, if you look at that weather report at 2 in the morning, you want to say, why am I even trying? The weather's going to take us out. We don't even need to finish this because nobody's going to have a shot to run the mountain, because it was the worst weather the entire month was on race day. It couldn't have been any worse. I can't control the weather. What I can control is getting the car to the start line.
With the trans?
Yeah.
Yeah, the trans is crooked.
Are you guys okay if we bend out the motor about 6 inches?
Yeah.
I believe 2 o'clock in the morning, and the car is put back together. we're ready to start it. And again, we're ready to load it in the trailer and go get some sleep. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll never forget the sound of a diesel engine cranking over that didn't have any compression.
Cranking! That sound right? There's no compression.
At this point, I mean, to be honest, I was like, do we just throw in the towel? Because nobody's slept, we're all tired, and we haven't done any testing with the car.
Cranking!
Tomorrow never comes until it's too late.
It was 3 a.m. What are we gonna do? We've all been up for 20 hours.
Literally the first thing we do after we install the engine is have to pull these valve covers off. And we found that out at 4 o'clock in the morning. And at that point, the team was exhausted. We needed to get some sleep. It wasn't gonna be anything that we were able to fix immediately. It was gonna take quite a bit of undoing of this engine install to get to where these valve covers would come out. So the decision was made, let's go sleep for a couple hours, and we'll come back in the morning and figure out what the solution is.
Grace gun on that drive back that night at like 5 or what, I don't even know what it was. He's like, I think I'm gonna quit tomorrow. Like, I'm like, you just gonna leave? Like, no, he like quit life, like the job, like all of it.
Like if I was to rage quit, not like in an angry way, but if I was just to, I'm tired, I wanna quit, rage quit, would I still like be able to catch a ride back home, or would I have to get a flight home?
Like, dude, why would you come so far just to like not see the end? So I told him Cole's motivational words that he told me when we were doing the Subaru. He's like, you gotta fight the good fight till the end, brother.
Ain't it funny how men think they made the bomb? They are extinct. It's only Saturday.
8 o'clock in the morning, we're back at the shop, and we're gonna see what we can do to pull these valve covers. We tried to pull the valve covers off of the engine while it was installed in the car, and they wouldn't come off. The strut towers, the big suspension supports that are in the engine bay, are so close to the engine that you physically could not remove the valve covers. We have this massive powertrain that we're trying to wedge into this GTR. If the engine was a 1/4 inch wider, it would not fit in the car at all. Like, we would have to chop the whole front end to get it to fit if it was a 1/4 inch wider. That's how tight it was. Figured it would be worth a risk, or we would take the chance to try to see if we can just kind of shimmy the engine and transmission side to side to allow us to remove these valve covers.
I think you're scambling.
Taking motor mounts off, jacking the engine up just to move it enough to get a valve cover off, to undo all the rockers, swap out push rods. Clay's team was super stoked to get it one last chance. Like, at least we can do this.
We're able to figure it out. It was the push rods, we changed them. It's got compression, the motor fired up, and away we went, and we were off to race day.
There was no time left to spare to get the thing started, test it in the parking lot, and get it to the mountain.
Think tomorrow's come, I think it's too late.
Welcome everybody to Pikes Peak, and this is the 100th running of the Broadmoor Pikes Peak International Hill Climb, brought to you by Gran Turismo and our live stream presented by Mobil 1.
We are now ready to go take our chance at the mountain to see if we can beat a diesel record, to see if we can beat our other buddies in their diesel-powered vehicles, if we're going to have a car that even makes it to the top of the mountain. It's always a big question mark.
Here we are at the start line of the 100th running, the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. As you can see, it's foggy, it's rainy, it's terrible conditions, but they're still sending competitors all the way to the summit.
It was so gnarly. You couldn't see 30 feet in front of you at the bottom.
Initially on race day, it shows 80% chance of rain. What the weather didn't show was 100% chance of fog. It was everywhere, from the start line to the finish line. The whole course is covered in fog. It's damp, then it starts to rain, then the fog gets worse, and then it lightens up a little bit in the middle. It just was a miserable day, weather-wise, for every competitor that attacked that mountain.
Next up, we got Paul Donovan on the line.
I've already got mine running. We know we have a few things to tidy up and go through. Nut and bolt check coolant, check oil, check everything. Go through and double check everything.
Lo and behold, like us not getting qualifying time helped us the best, you know, because we were the last car.
Mark got to live his true potential and be the Iceman and dump ice down his ice chutes.
Cole hops in the car. There's fog at the bottom, but the reports are saying that once you leave the bottom, let's say quarter of the mountain, the roads all dry up.
So we sent him off on the slicks, ready to really make a good pass. And
The car looks so good. Can't believe it.
Up until that moment, it's a car. It's a system of systems, like it's a machine. But until he's in the car at the start line, this is Cole's livelihood.
So Cole Powelson, if you don't know this gentleman, Time Attack, he's raced here before, Sierra Alpha. This will put an exclamation point on the 100th running of the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. And Cole Powelson, that's diesel. That's right. The current record is 11:24. I hear people giggling and laughing, like just this, it sounds ludicrous.
immediately after the tow truck takes off, right behind.
We're hearing sirens. I'm hoping that's
off
just
the start line, so
just
that's
denoting.
And I was just tripping, like, what happened? Like, how did he crash? Did he go off like that quick? Like, no way.
Talking about the safety trucks and the
a
tow truck.
flatbed. No.
So I think Cole is the concern.
JAROD DEANDA is announcing, and he's like, oh man, safety's going up. You know, there's only 2 cars on track. Someone must have went off, or there's an accident.
Instantly, we're just kind of deflated as a team, but we're still watching the live stream video.
They wouldn't send the safety truck from the bottom. True, so I think Cole is the concern.
And then all of a sudden, here comes Cole through the fog.
That's Cole. It might be a sweep.
That is Cole. Yep.
Everyone in the crowd loses it. Yeah!
See a first sector time, and he's 20 seconds faster than the next fastest diesel-powered vehicle.
Start to find a rhythm, start to remember parts of the course as the fog's breaking up, and then I break into the sunlight and it's clear and it's beautiful and the car feels great and I'm feeling it. I'm ready to rip.
In the back of our minds, we're thinking Cinderella story. We've had like the worst week all week. Cinderella story.
There's a freaking 6-liter GTR going up the mountain.
To a stop, and it doesn't look like fire smoke, but it's black smoke.
That's a large amount of diesel smoke.
I get to the same exact corner as I did in qualifying day, and the engine turns off. It did exactly what it did on quali day. I could not believe it.
We can clearly see that Cole is not going any further.
So I think that's going to be all she wrote for Cole. It's really unfortunate, kind of a unique build.
I wish it didn't feel so good before it felt so bad. The potential for the diesel record was right there. It was in my hands. We put a power stroke into a Nissan GTR and it didn't work.
Awesome.
And ultimately, it's just an undeveloped car. It doesn't have all the parts and pieces needed. We hadn't earned it yet.
It's not our year.
You place to get a beer around here?
But there's always next year, and we've built a monster.
The diesel record's still there. It's still exactly the same as it was, 1124. That's still the number I go to sleep at night and think of. It is in our vision. It's right in front of us. I know this car can do it. That's no longer a question as if this car can do it. It's how much deeper past 11 can we go?
To put so much blood, sweat, and tears and sleepless nights into a project like this, to not get the result that I think the whole team had worked and deserved at this point, I'm very anxious for the future, and I'm very anxious for the rest of the world to see what this monster can do. What we were able to overcome in preparation for race day to give that just one shot at the mountain was truly a magical experience to be a part of. It'll always stick in the back of my memory as the best part of this year. You know, definitely didn't get the result we wanted. Nobody did, due to weather and fog and everything else, but it was the greatest team effort I've ever been a part of, and it was a really cool thing to witness firsthand.